Welcome, everyone, to the fierce compassion of the divine feminine, entering the era of the Empress, where women across the globe are discovering how to embody the Empress by living a life of compassion, character, courage, and grace. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute, and it is my joy and delight to be here with my dear friend, Kaylin Castell. Welcome, Kaylin.
Oh, Kathy, I always love to be with you.
we have way too much fun together.
We do.
So Kaylin is, if you don't know, she is an alchemical astrologer and co-creatrix of Venus Alchemy and My Star Alchemy. In addition to writing monthly celestial timings for over 26 years, Kaylin has created numerous guided journeys that support an embodied experience. Active on YouTube, she's been featured in many online summits and live conferences. Kaylin enjoys sharing these mysteries through personal readings, online and in-person events, articles, classes, and videos, coming from the visionary understanding that we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. And Kaylin is going to give us a beautiful slide presentation today, entering 2023 as the Empress. So I've already set it up, Kaylin, so you can share your screen.
Okay, awesome.
Just jump right in.
Okay, let's just see if I can. So are you seeing it?
Yes, we certainly are.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that you see slides moving. Mm-hmm. Okay, because the last time we did this, it didn't move for a little while.
Yeah, they're moving.
A little bit of trickster energy going on there. So, yeah. So I got inspired this morning as I was, kind of wrapping up, putting this together, looking ahead at 2023, and me as Empress. And so it was like the me were talking to me. So in the story of Inanna, we're going to look at the cycle of Venus, and the story of Inanna is a literal description of what happens to Venus in the sky. And part of the story that isn't usually told in relationship to the Venus cycle is how she wins like some sort of gambling thing with Enki, and she wins the sacred me. And they're the clay tablets that have the encoded divine knowledge, including the knowledge of the planets and the stars. So 2023 and me, not necessarily me as in me, but it could be me. Anyway, I was just having fun playing with that idea of me. me as the Empress, right? So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with from Star Walking, Shamanic Practices for Traveling into the Night Sky by Paige Bryant. She passed, I want to say like 2014, maybe it was 2016. I'm not exactly sure, but she's passed fairly recently. And she was brilliant. And this book is brilliant. I highly recommend it. And this is just a quote I want to honor and set up the space with this. So just to, in whatever way you get comfortable and can take this in, like really take this in. So she says, our ancestors made use of the power inherent within individual stars, the esoteric knowledge of the constellations, the secrets of celestial computations, and of cosmic order. The cultures who possessed that vast body of wisdom in its entirety were able to answer vital questions about the nature of the universe and make giant leaps in evolution. Just think that's so cool. Mm-hmm. So here, maybe we're helping to create a giant leap in evolution here.
We are.
Awesome, right? So they taught that all life is sacred and that all is alive. Every star, every planet, every tree, every stone, everything. That knowledge gave them a technology that puzzles us today, still puzzles us today. And one of the things I thought was really cool about this, Graham Hancock, who wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, and I mean, he's just a host of books. I can't think of all of them right now, but he just came out with a Netflix TV series, 8 series, and he's looking at all these ancient cultures and what they knew and how they were working with star alignments and solstice alignments and equinox alignments and all of that. And it's so brilliant what he was looking at, but he was also looking at a great cataclysm that happened about 13,000 years ago. So, and are we on the precipice of another one? He was kind of asking that question. There's so much that is encoded into these ancient sites, and it's very inspiring. So if you have Netflix, check it out. It's really good.
What's the name of it?
Apocalyptic cataclysmic or cataclysmic apocalypse or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, it just came out. So just really like within the last week. And of course I watched it all already.
Of course you did.
I couldn't help it. So anyway, one of the things we're going to be looking at is Sekhmet, a solar goddess, and she's a queen, an empress, a healer. And right now, as we're doing the filming of this, I think maybe by the time it's launched, this might no longer be the case, but Venus has been in the underworld. And I had this revelation. I have worked with Sekhmet for years. And she just came in with me and she goes, I wear the sun on my head. I'm Venus with the sun.
Right? Yeah.
And I'm like, how did I not get that before? So, and there's a lot of, there's a link here, and of course this these slides will be available to people on my free offer page. You don't have to give me your email, just go get it, do whatever, but you can access the link and how they talk about Sekhmet as Venus goddess of ancient Egypt. And so she is the divine feminine facilitating death and rebirth. And she's going to be very significant in the next Venus cycle that starts in August. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, August of 2023. But so because of that, I thought it would be fun to also do a Sekhmet prayer to kind of bring her energy in so that she's guiding us through this process. So if I just highly recommend that people allow themselves to come into their center, into their body, into their being, to get grounded in whatever way works for you, to allow a breath and fill your belly, maybe put your hand on your belly or your heart or both, whatever works for you, and just take in these words and just know that as we invoke her, Sekhmet, she shows up, and I've had her show up for me so much. So I'm speaking from experience. Beloved Sekhmet, keeper of the mysteries of death and rebirth, eminent and renowned as a facilitator of total transformation. Thank you for assisting me in feeling held, supported, and safe. As I face my fears and shadow side, thank you for transmuting all that holds me back from knowing and expressing my true self. Oh, wondrous Sekhmet, mighty Empress, gracious goddess, thank you for showing me the precious secrets of surrender. Help me to die a good and peaceful death. Guide me in surrendering all that is in the way of living my true mission and purpose, including awakening the Empress within. Help me feel all my uncomfortable feelings, including uncertainty, insecurity, and self-doubt. As I transmute and transform them into confidence and courage, loving acceptance and worthiness, restoring magnificent cosmic wisdom, kindness, and compassion within and all around me. With gratitude, it is done, it is so, and so it is. Blessed be.
Beautiful.
Love you, Sekhmet. Yeah. All right. So I thought I'm not going into all of these details, and okay. And also the first thing I need to say probably is, if you don't get the astrological language, it's okay. It is a language, and some of the things I might say might not make sense or might not really get it, but I'm going to explain as much as I can. And some of this I'm just going to barely touch on because we just have a certain amount of time. But I will be doing additional videos and things about that. So if people want to stay in touch with me, they'll be able to get access to all that as that comes about. But these are the main events of 2023 that are happening. So on March 7th, Saturn is going to enter Pisces. And that's the first time in like almost 30 years. This is going to be in Pisces for a couple of years that it's entering into this realm. And there's a lot we could say about that. Saturn's been in Aquarius. We could say, there's Ideally, we've been expanding our perception on the structures of our reality, but sometimes it kind of can feel like we're more entrenched in those structures. But something hopefully has been seated around that. And then when it goes into Pisces, it's like, then what do we need to heal? What do we need to feel so that we can institute these new structures and these new possibilities? How can we be more centered in the groundedness of knowing? Because Pisces can be a little all over the place. I'm a Pisces sun. I know this from experience. Anyway, so there's that. Jupiter has gone back into Aries. I can't remember if it's true. I think it's true for now. And then we'll be going into Taurus a little bit later in May, but in March it's going to conjunct Chiron. It didn't get all the way up to Chiron earlier this year. So essentially what that means, Jupiter is all about expansion of consciousness and the quest for truth and the quest for having meaning in our life. And also can be the shadow side. Everything has a shadow side. Doing too much or overdoing or overextending or whatever that might be. When it's conjunct Chiron is the shamanic healer. How do we heal the wounds? And everybody has wounds. No one gets into this life without just going through the birth process is wounding. Even if you have like the most perfect birth, it's still wounding.
Right.
Yeah. And then, and then we have family issues and we have cultural issues and we have community, all the things that are going on that can be additionally wounding. So we could say Jupiter's here to expand Chiron's ability to heal some of these wounds. And I feel like Chiron in Aries has been about healing, and we're going to have Chiron in Aries until 2026, I think. So we've got, like 3 more years of it, to heal the wounds of injustice.
Yeah.
To heal the wounds of, like what do we need to forgive? How can we love more? I feel like that's how we heal these wounds of injustice. Like these are the powers of it, using kindness and love and forgiveness as the tools of healing these wounds. And sometimes we really have to feel what we feel and be mad and be angry and be frustrated. Just don't do it to somebody else. My pillow gets beaten on a few times sometimes.
Right.
I hope it doesn't really feel it, like a bad thing or whatever, but it seems like that's a good way to like get that out. It's like whatever it takes to get it out of you and out of your body. So we've got that going on. And then, and as I said, May 16th, Jupiter is going to enter Taurus, and it's going to be expanding the mysteries of how we experience pleasure and beauty and intimacy and receive the gift of life. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Oh, I'm so grateful I'm having this horrible, awful experience right now. But like taking a moment to really appreciate the sunrise or the sunset or a full moon or an eclipse we just had, or whatever it is, it's like to be in that place of gratitude. That is true receivership. That is healthy, true receivership. And if we can find ways to do that every day, it's really have a gratitude practice. And I think Jupiter and Taurus every 12 years is going to really expand that as an experience for us. And then on March 23rd, it's a lot happening in March.
Yeah.
March 23rd, Pluto's going to enter Aquarius for the first time in 248 years.
Wow.
I know, it's big. And it will stay in Aquarius for a little while until June 11th, and then it's going to go back into Capricorn. But and then it'll also be square Jupiter. On May 17th, it's like they're going to be in an exact square, and they're kind of like going to be in a close range for all that time. So that energy, so Jupiter and Pluto. This is just reminding me of something. I wrote a whole thing about Jupiter and Pluto. There was a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn in 2020. And Saturn was also there. And it was like one of these rare alignments that happened. And we all know what happened in 2020.
Right.
Pluto with all those planets. Well, now Jupiter's reached the square to Pluto. So what was seeded back in 2020? And, we know what happened, but we don't know necessarily what was seeded collectively. Right. We know what we might have been seeding personally. Mm-hmm. So, and this is about really looking at the how do we have a sense of self, like our self-awareness, Aquarius, you know, expansion of our consciousness, Aquarius, and then the self, as we're embodied in a physical body and connected to the earth. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And then Jupiter's going to conjunct the North Node at 3 degrees Taurus on June 1st. And last year, I spent a bit of time talking about how Uranus was conjunct the North Node. Well, Uranus is conjunct the North Node within 10 degrees until March of, I think it's March 7th or something of 2023. So they're still close. They're still close. Jupiter won't hang out that close. And then also the nodes are going to go into a new sign. On July 17th, the North Node's going to enter Aries for the first time in 18 some years. And then, but we'll be in a close square to Pluto. So the past and the future are being illuminated by the planet that's like, what has to die so we could, in the things of the past, so we can get to the future, the divinely intended future, ideally. Yeah. And so that on July 22nd, the Magdalene feast day, and I'm going to share a little bit more about this, then Pluto is going to square the nodes exact. And on August 19th, the other piece that I want to bring in is Venus rising as morning star as the Leo meta goddess Sekhmet coming back onto the world stage. Yeah. So that's a bit of an overview.
That's a lot.
I know. I know. And I'm just going to touch on this briefly because we just had a total lunar eclipse that was fabulous to see if you had clear skies. And I know a lot of people didn't, but I was very fortunate and got to watch it. And it was very personal to me. It was activating a very personal part of my chart. And I was just like buzzing the whole entire night. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but the first eclipse is going to be a total solar eclipse on April 20th. So this is the path of the eclipse here, not going to be seen where we are. And then the next eclipse will be May 5th, and it's a penumbral eclipse. Now here's the moon with just a bare shadow on it, and that's what that means. And so last year we had the total lunar eclipses. This year we have total solar eclipses, and it usually shifts like that. And then on October 14th, we'll have an annular solar eclipse, and this is the path of the eclipse across the US. So some people may have a easier time to see it. And annular eclipses create a ring of fire. That's why this says ring of fire solar eclipse. I've put a video, it's a short video about what that means on my free offer page. So I'm not going to go into detail about that here, but anyway, well, it's really fun to see them at the ring of fire. So you think of the Johnny Cash song.
Right.
And then October 28th, there's going to be a partial eclipse. I mean, partial, like this is how much of the moon is going to be darkened by that eclipse. So not very much in October. So that's just a brief look at the eclipses of what's happening next year. And I'll have that video, and I think I have some eclipse articles and stuff I can put links to on the free offer page, make it easy. Now, the other thing that's happening is we start the new year. Of course, we're going to go through the solstice, and I've shared many times in the past how the solstices now are so powerful because the sun is on the galactic cross where the plane of the solar system intersects the plane of the galaxy, and it's there from 1926 to 2070. That's the big window. The small window is 1962 to 2034. So we're in that window one way or another. And so the solstices are especially powerful right now. And the December solstice is on the galactic cross, the galactic center, the center of our galaxy. So that lets us know we're in a very important time. But on January 22nd, we're going to have all the planets moving forward. Or all of them will be in direct motion. Nobody's retrograde.
Thank you.
And so now here's the thing. Planets are never retrograde, really. It's just from our point of view, when we look out into space, they look like they're retracing the same stars that they just crossed. So they look like they're going back. And that has a powerful effect. It's kind of like if you're driving down the highway and you're driving faster than the car next to you, it feels like that car next to you is moving backwards, but it's still always moving forward.
Right.
It's a real phenomenon that we feel on planet Earth. And we could say a full speed ahead time, time to go into co-creation and collaboration, to really have like a plan and work the plan during this all planets moving forward time. Progressive action toward a heartfelt intention, all awesome thing to have set up. But the thing to be aware of is you can move too fast. Maybe make mistakes or do things, and maybe ignore the signs and messages that are coming in because you're just so, we can get so hell-bent on going a certain direction. May make reckless choices with unintended results.
Yeah.
So there's always a shadow side to everything. So it's like, how do we balance that and still take time to step back when needed? Because if we're just constantly moving forward,
yeah, that's a long time, 91
days.
Yeah.
I know, 3 months ish, right? We've had long ones. Sometimes they're broken up with like a Mercury retrograde in between. In the last like 3 or 4 years. In 2017, when Trump was inaugurated president, it was all planets were direct, or all planets were moving forward. And in the history of the United States, no president has been ever reelected if that's what happened, was going on when inauguration happened. So guess it didn't, it's like that's still held true in 2020.
Right.
Well, now we're coming up in 2024. I think in 2025, in 2020, 2021, when the inauguration happened, all the planets were moving forward. So it's unlikely Biden's going to continue on. For whatever reason. And sometimes it's because people have died in office. Sometimes it's been because they weren't reelected. There can be lots of reasons for that. So I don't know, but it's just a fascinating thing to be aware of. So yeah. So anyway, in 2023, we have this 91 day, and I think I have a whole article on it. I'll put a link to that on the free page as well if people want to know more, that I've researched all the presidents and how and presidents born with all the planets direct. It's all fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going to be that's worth paying attention to is when the planets go out of bounds. It's called out of bounds. Here's the sun rising at the equinox, due east, due west, sunrise or set, either way, east or west at the equinox is exactly on that line. And there are a lot of sites that are aligned to the equinox, sunrise and sunset. At the June solstice, the sun is furthest north. And at the December solstice, the sun is furthest south. And it can never go further than these, certain points on the horizon. So if you watch your horizon, you can see the sun rising and setting at different times of the year in different places on the horizon. And you can kind of get a sense of that farthest north and south. Well, the planets can go outside those boundaries. So it's considered going outside the boundaries of ordinary reality, or of our, kind of more structured reality that we live in. And it's a wild card factor. It's like, oh, it's outside of ordinary reality, so it's in an extraordinary place. What's going to happen? It reaches beyond our established current reality, and it disrupts what we think we know is real to expand possibilities in unusual ways. That's the intent. Now, this does happen every year. Venus, Mars, and Mercury go out of bounds. We also now have the moon going out of bounds. I'll share a little bit more about that. And it only can happen when they're in the signs of Gemini and Cancer, or Sagittarius and Capricorn. So there's this, as people born with out of bounds planets, usually, even if it's like Capricorn or Cancer, which seems to be more like inside the cultural norm, those people will often express themselves outside of that in some way. So it's fascinating to look at that. And so I've given these dates of when the planets are out of bounds. Now, what's interesting is Mars went out of bounds October 22nd, the day that Venus conjuncted the sun. And because it's retrograde in Gemini. So it's going to be out of bounds until May. So we're in this extraordinary time. It doesn't happen all that often where it lasts for months, not just weeks.
Wow.
I know, it's like blows my mind.
So my computer's going to be flitchy for the next few months.
Could
I
be.
felt like I was in Mercury retrograde this whole
Right?
time that Mars has been acting up.
Yeah. I know, and it's and Mars is staying in Gemini the whole time, so it's that trickster coyote energy anyway. And so yeah, these things can happen. So these are the dates for 2023. And then I also have the moon in here, and this is what's the rest of 2022, like when the moon's going outside the boundaries. And I highlighted the most extreme point, and you can see it's at 27 degrees. Well, what's going to happen? This is all of 2023. So this is for people who want to like track this, they can keep track of it. And really it's a couple of days on either side of the exact most extreme point. But it's at 27 in January. And then by the time we get to, oh my gosh, where is it? To August, it's going to be 28. So it's getting to its most extreme. And one of the ways that you can know is whenever the nodes go into Aries, it's reaching an extreme lunar standstill, out of bounds, the moon being in its greatest out of bounds point. And so it's starting to get there in 2023, but it'll be 2025 when it gets to the most extreme point. Yeah. Now, why this is significant, what happens and how we can actually experience it in real time. I'm just giving one example here. This is Chimney Rock in Colorado. And the only time the moon or any planet ever is between the chimneys is when they're far enough out of bounds, and the moon goes, out of bounds every 19 years. And what they found was that they were building kivas every 19 years at Chimney Rock. And the astronomers, archaeologists were like, what are they doing that for? They couldn't figure it out. Well, an archaeoastronomer comes along and goes, oh, it's because the moon is rising between the chimneys every 19 years. And they were doing that as a ceremonial honoring of that process. And it's several years that it's kind of in that more extreme place, so that they would build a kiva to mark that. And there's places in Scotland and places on other places around the planet that we're tracking this 19-year lunar standstill. So we're moving towards that. And every month when the moon is out of bounds is a time when we can, especially if it's like near a full moon, or there's we can watch it rising on the horizon, then we can see how extreme it is compared to where we might see the sun rising on that horizon. So yeah, and it tells us that we have an opportunity to change things in a way that we haven't necessarily thought before, outside of ordinary reality. Okay, but that's not all.
And there's more.
Last year, I shared about how the North Node and Uranus were coming together, and Uranus is all about unexpected changes that are to support our evolution and so on. And then, the North Node about being the future, and the South Node being about the past. And of course, all the eclipses were going to take place in Scorpio, Taurus, and they did last year. They did that. And again, as I mentioned before, it's March 8th. I was close. March 8th, 2023, they stay within 10 degrees. So, and when they're within that 10 degrees, it's like Uranus still has a strong influence on the North Node. It's only going to be with the North Node. I've seen things where it's like 2000 years has been or whatever, I think. And Uranus comes into Taurus every 84 years and is there for 7 years. Well, the North Node comes into Taurus every 18 and a half years. So 84 and 18 have to line up somehow.
Right.
So it's rare. It's a rare thing that's happening and has been happening. And the last eclipse we had, that total lunar eclipse we had, Uranus was exact with the moon and within 3 degrees of the North Node.
Wow. So
that was putting something into place.
Yeah.
That we're still feeling and we'll continue to be feeling. And every time the moon comes back around that point, around that place and so on, for now, it's going to continue to energize that. And then, so this is really about, as I've said, the garden of earthly delight, or how do we really enjoy and experience the pleasure of what it is to be embodied. And there's so much in the way of that. So all of that needs to be cleared, disrupted, taken out of this field somehow. And then on June 1st, we'll have Jupiter conjunct the North Node, as I mentioned, and that's helping to expand this new destiny that was been put into place over this last year. And if we haven't really thought about it yet, what's our intention and how do we want to bring in this new Earth as our Empress selves?
Right.
Empowered, mostly empowered, you know, in the best ways possible for the benefit of ourselves and the entire planet. Then these are points that we can really work with ceremonially to energize those intentions. And then on July 17th is when the nodes enter Aries, something I've already, and they're going to be closely square Pluto. They're both to be at 29 degrees because anytime the nodes are always moving backwards through the signs. And so Pluto will be exactly square the North Node on the Magdalene feast day. And I find this fascinating because this is a day that has, it's also the day the sun moves into Leo.
Right.
So it seems so perfect. And that the Pope, I forget which one, it was a while back, like I want to say in the 60s, they started to honor Mary Magdalene and give her a feast day, and then it got elevated. She became Saint Mary Magdalene, and it's been becoming a thing, like over time it's been becoming a thing. So this happening on that day, it's like Pluto putting a spotlight on the shadow of the past, so that's been keeping us from moving towards the future, and that divine feminine presence and energy, Empress energy, or Queen energy, or High Priestess energy, whatever we want to, it's divine feminine power and energy that this is happening on that day just feels amazing. So and I really feel it's about letting go of the need to be right, to be the dominant energy, you know, to be in control of the external world. And we see that lots of people are really wanting to be that. It's about facing our fears, traumas, conditioning, and transforming them into our strengths. And then, of course, one of my favorite sayings, this is one of the ways I've said it for many years: accept what is and trust the universe. But the other thing is to trust the universe has your back, even if it looks like things aren't going well. And I was sharing with Kathy before we got on, it's like I've been in a Pluto cycle now for almost 2 years, and sometimes I've been forced to surrender because I'm not really good at being willing sometimes. But the minute I surrendered, it's like, oh, now I feel empowered. I'm not fighting something that's not meant to be. Oh my gosh, how good is that? And that the universe has my back, and that these, you know, all these opportunities and things keep coming my way because I surrendered. So that is a big piece of what 2023 is about. What do we need to surrender so that we can get to our more empowered selves, our more Empress expression? And so this is, there's going to be 3 passes of Pluto to the nodal axis, July 22nd, July 25th, and July 28th. And that has to do with how the nodes kind of shift sometimes back and forth like that. So just keeping that in mind. And then we could say it's possible that the nodes could be squared by Pluto every 248 years. I looked it up, and the last time, 248 years, I went back, and looked, and it was November 14th, 1772, but it wasn't North Node in Aries, it was North Node in Libra, the opposite point. So interesting. Anyway, and I also am giving the dates of how Pluto's going to be moving back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn into 2024. And by November 19th of 2024, Pluto will stay in Aquarius for 20 years. So we're going to have that for a long time. Yeah.
Pluto's not going to let up.
No. Then the United States Pluto return started in April of 2021, and it goes to January of 2024. So we're still in it. The last exact pass.
Yeah.
I know. The last exact pass is December 27th, 2022. So that's coming up at the end of this year. And then on August 12th of 2023, the nodes will square the USA Pluto. So I find that fascinating. And then I put in all these dates of when Jupiter is going to be activating things on the US chart.
Wow. Okay.
And you know, it's like, so we're not out of the woods yet, just saying. And then in 2023, the US is going into a Chiron return.
Okay.
So, you know, every 50 years or so, Chiron comes back. And this is, you know, we're getting close to that. What is it? 240, 340, whatever, however many years it's been since we became a country.
Right.
Anyway, it's not always precise. It's a little bit of drift there, but and then Chiron will square the USA Sun on February 17th and the USA Saturn on March 18th of this year. So Chiron's a big player in the US chart, finding that fascinating. And so it's Chiron will station retrograde at 19 degrees Aries within 11 minutes of the USA natal Chiron at 20 degrees Aries and 8 minutes, 1957 to 2008. And within 10 degrees of the transiting north node that's happening at that time. So I think this is the chart, if I get it to it. Oh no, this is the last pass of Pluto, when this is the exact degree of the US Pluto. And this is on December 27th, this is when it's happening. But look at all this Capricorn that's also going to be in this story.
Wow.
So that last pass is going to have a lot of energy for going forward with it. And we can see here it's Chiron at 1156. Like, it's not really in the mix with Pluto exactly, but it is with the sun. It's square the sun and that kind of thing. So or it's just been exactly square the sun. And here's Jupiter having just gone back into Aries. So much energy is going on here. So this is the US chart in the center, and then this is the transiting planets on July 23rd of 2023, when the nodes are or when the exact Pluto square the nodes is happening. Well, it's actually on July 22nd, but you can see that they're going to kind of stay there for a little bit of time. Yeah. Anyway, and then these are all, like, we have all these Cancer planets on the US chart, all these Libra, Pluto and Capricorn, and Chiron in Aries. So it's like this grand cross of energy that's being just lit up. So more changes, more transformation, what's coming to light, what wounds are being healed. You know, those are things to be contemplating for I mean, the US is such a major player in the world. So even if you're not in the US, it tends to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, we don't know, but
but so we have to call on Sekhmet and
yes,
the Empress within. I mean, we're going to need all the courage and tenacity we can get.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, oh, man, it's crazy. Anyway, so just this reminder about Pluto, it always has gifts. And it's like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. And the US has been in this long process. In fact, and we could say that the US Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, highly powerful invocations and intention statements that were put into place have never been honored. Yep. So maybe we'll get there. Yeah. I keep hoping.
Well, I keep praying for that too. And, you know, maybe that's what all of this energy is about, is getting us there.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, the caterpillar dissolves, the phoenix dives into the fire and becomes ashes, and then they can emerge as the butterfly or as the new phoenix rising up out of those ashes. So that's the intent. If now we don't have to choose that. We're informing the mysteries as much as they're informing us. People can ignore that and not get that.
Right.
Part of it, they don't get the gifts. They don't get the treasure that's buried within themselves because they just won't go there. Yeah. But if you go there, you get the gifts, and it's amazing. It's really cool. And so this is just this look at, like, you know, going into the death process and then coming into the rebirth process, and how it's the old structures that are dying. You know, the government structures, the economic structures, the education structures, the healthcare, and the climate crisis, and the spiritual fundamentalism that we've been seeing taking a greater hold, and all of that. It's got to go, because it's used to manipulate and control and limit our freedom to be who we really are. So the question to be with is, how do we birth a new way, a new structure of living in harmony with the earth and each other?
Mm.
It's a good question to be with.
Mhm.
Now I'm just going to briefly, we're getting towards the end here. I hope I'm not going too long. Venus rising as morning star on August 19th, 2023. So here you see, this is a star map of that day. The sun is about to come over the horizon. Venus is just above the horizon. And this begins the new Venus cycle. And she's at almost 17 degrees Leo, just 10 degrees from the sun. And so this starts a 19-month cycle. It's interesting, it's on August 19th, and it's a 19-month cycle. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's as the lioness, or in that Leo energy, we could say that almost all the different versions of the strength card in the tarot represent the priestess and the lion, or the lioness. So I have a priestess with a lion and a priestess with a lioness.
For sure. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we could say that's Empress too. She's got to be strong.
Yes. Absolutely.
And, so it represents the power and the strength available to those who know their divine light is meant to shine and inspire.
Mhm.
Now, we all have divine light, but we don't always know that. So that's the challenge. It's about healthy personal power, resilience, and of course, strength. And these are all qualities that are found within the Leo meta goddess when she's on the world stage. And when the Empress and the Lioness work together, they have the strength to change the world they experience into a more kind, caring, and loving way.
That just gives me chills. Yes.
Isn't that great? Yeah, that's what we want to be calling forth. And we want to be informing those mysteries. Yes, that's what we want.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So here's Venus is going to be rising along the ecliptic on this side of this line. Now, this Regulus, the star Regulus, the heart of the lion, is at 0 Virgo. So this represents the Virgo, and from here to here, it represents the Virgo point. So most of the lion is in the seasonal sign of Virgo now, but still a little bit of it in the, near the head of the lion. And then we have the priestess, who this is the autumn equinox, and most of the priestess is overlaid by Libra. And but it's this idea of how do the lion and the priestess, the lioness and the priestess work together? How are they coming together? And they sit side by side in the sky. Love how that works.
Me too. That's awesome.
So I was feeling into this, and I was like, healthy expressions of our inner Empress.
Yeah.
Versus unhealthy expressions. And, if we think about Leo, we think about self-love, but the unhealthy expression might be self-importance. We think about self-respect, but the unhealthy expression might be self-contempt, self-worth, self-criticism, self-approval, self-judgment, self-confidence, self-doubt, self-acceptance, self-rejection, self-empowerment, self-sabotage, self-determination, codependence. So these are the things that I think the Leo cycle, and one of the things we do when we work with the cycle of Venus is it's all about releasing distortions and anything in the way of what's the healthy expression.
Yeah.
And so that's what we'll be focusing on when we work with that, and everybody who works with this cycle will want to focus on that. And then if you are born within any of these dates here, or turning a multiple of 8 between August 19th and March 29th. And you can really use a week or two on either side of those dates, because Venus goes retrograde and it kind of throws things off. If you're born with Venus retrograde, it's not as clean and clear for you. I've worked with a lot of people who are in that situation. So, but if you're in your Venus return, you definitely want to work with this, because it's a way of experiencing your divine feminine expression. If you're a woman, what is that intended expression? If you're a man, what is the inner feminine expression that you're here to connect with? And it's like every time we have a Venus return, it can take it to a higher octave. That's the intent. But also if you have personal planets in angles or nodes in Leo, then this will be highly personal for you as well. So it's worth working with. It's worth releasing the distortions, that, and you can do this yourself. You can do it with Venus Alchemy that I've been doing now for over 8 years, and we've had just such amazing experiences with people. And we've had people who started with us 8 years ago and they're still with us because they love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know we're doing something right there, but it's powerful away. And I have a lot of personal Leo. I have my midheaven conjunct Jupiter and Pluto in Leo. So I always love this cycle personally, even though it's not my personal Venus return. Oh, and I'm done.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So,
How cool is
Caitlin,
that?
so much information that you've shared with all of us. And if everybody else is just like, you'll have to go listen to the video again.
Well, hopefully, I mean, I get it. And really, literally, this is the kind of thing that you have to hear more than once, definitely.
Yes.
Especially if you're new to it. And even if you're not, it's, you know, and I think that for me, as somebody who works with this information all the time, I'm constantly getting new insight, like putting pieces together and going, oh my God, how did I not see that before?
For sure.
Yeah.
Caitlin, thank you. Thank you so, so much for sharing all of that information. I know how hard you work to put all that together. So I just so totally appreciate it. And I know our listeners will too. And if you want to get with Caitlin and do the Venus alchemy or do work with her, you can find her on her website. Be sure and sign up for those free gifts because they'll be chocked full of information. So thank you, Caitlin. It's
Thank
been
you,
a
Kathy.
pleasure.
Total pleasure. I love that the Empress is coming into the next Venus cycle. So good.
Yeah.
You
So
were totally tuned in on that one.
well, and that was given. It was
I know.
anything I came up with. So she knew what was coming for sure.
Right? Beautiful.
Thank you.